In the dark, I know you are with me. Yeah. Don't you see that I need you so much? Don't you see that I love you so much? Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, darling, I need your love. Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, darling, I need your love.
I think that's enough of that. That's far too. That was far too. Should have searched for something a bit more smoother. But yes, good morning, one and all. Welcome to this unfortunate good morning walk from indoors. I set out this morning fully intention to have a proper good morning walk around our usual spot. But unfortunately, as I was on my way there, the cows had basically decided to block the entrance. So I wasn't getting round there. So I then decided, right, gonna have to go the long way. Halfway around, as I'd started my walk to the other way to get to the field, it basically started to rain. So unfortunately this morning, there is going to be no good morning walk from the outside, shall we say, unfortunately today. Unfortunately, it's just one of those unfortunate things that I basically have no control over. So sorry about that. But these things happen when you do a live broadcast, basically outdoors. And you can't do anything about it. But yes, good morning to everyone who's joining us. Let's see. Marius Voss is in the chat. Good morning to you. Mitch, good morning from Texas as well. Good morning to you. Simon Carr, good morning, my fellow brother in the Imperium of Adeptus Astartes. Oh, my friend, I'm not an Astartes member. I'm a filthy Xenos. I'm an orc player. That's the first thing you need to know. I'm an orc player first, and then I play the Adeptus Mechanicus. So I suppose we're at least allied by convenience in that part. Mitch, we've seen ponies, goats, swans. What can be next? Well, you'll find out what's going to be next, because this was what I was going to save for Wednesday. However, the good morning walk is normally roughly about an hour. So I thought what I would do is I would take one of the things that we're going to do this Wednesday, and we are going to cover UK libertarian parties. We are going to look at their policies, because I've always said it's not about personalities, it's about policies. Oh, David Falconer, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your support there. So yes, Mitch, it is a good morning sit, unfortunately. Like I say, today circumstances have been well and truly out of my hands to be able to have this good morning walk today. So Paz News is here as well. Good morning to you. Prinny Bird, good morning to you. And you are right, yes, nature does not always cooperate. That is certainly true this morning. So, as we said, yes, the libertarians, most people seem to think that libertarian parties are very much an American thing. That's, if you look, that tends to be where you see most of the stuff. And they are quite crazy, shall we say, in what they like to believe. And indeed, some of their policies, shall we say, are at least questionable, shall we say, to how long a country would actually be able to function under that type of government. So I wondered, is there such a thing as these types of parties here in the UK? Turns out, yes, there is. Yes. Oh, yes, there is. And so I literally found the Scottish Libertarian Party and the English Libertarian Party. And we're not going to go over the English Libertarian Party today, because next Wednesday on our live stream, we will be going over the full manifesto of the English Libertarian Party, literally cover to cover, and going, oh my word, what are these policies? What on earth are they talking about? And of course, obviously, I did say the Scottish Libertarian Party as well, because yes, they are a thing as well, apparently. Their, shall we say, policy offering, shall we say, is shorter, but it is good enough. It is good enough, shall we say, to shall we say, fulfill this Good Morning's Walk segment. So, so yeah, join me as today on the Good Morning Walk, we talk about the policies of the Scottish Libertarian Party. Oh me, oh my, get ready. Like I say, your brains might not be prepared for what we're about to see. Oh, FSM the dog, welcome. Yep. Sean O'Neill Bud, I think that's how you pronounce it. Yep, you are right. There was a difference, not anymore. If anything, what has happened is that libertarianism has been fully co-opted by the right wing at this point, and we're going to see some incredibly shall we say, policies that would normally definitely be coming from the Tory party, but apparently these people are on the left, or at least they'll claim they're on the left. But with these policies that they put forward, I can't see how anyone could claim to be on the left and support these policies. This is it's absolutely crazy. But yes, good morning, Alan. Good morning to you. Like I say, apologies for the people expecting me to be out in a field. Shall we say, nature has conspired against me today, well and truly. So, yeah, pretty bird, yeah, on the left of the extreme right. that's true. So, like I say, and trust me, it's very easy, because I do not want to be accused of someone who were these supporters coming after me and said, no, you've only attacked us on our personalities and the things that we have said. How dare I? You should look at our policies. Well, that's what we're going to look at. But just to show you how easy it is to spike, shall we say, a libertarian, let's just have a look at their Twitter feed, because they do have a little Twitter feed. Oh dear. Oh no, can you see this? Oh, that's highlighted it. I just don't even want to click on that blog. I just don't even want to click on it. We're not even going to touch that. We're not going to touch that with a barge pole. Oh, I hope I pronounced this right. Caniquous, I think that's hopefully how you pronounce it. Good morning from a Canadian socialist who hasn't gone to bed yet. Love your channel. Good evening to you. Hope we can lull you to sleep with some Scottish libertarian lullabies. But yes, I don't know if you can see this tweet that they've got on their party. But yeah, this is from their official party. Hang on, let me just see if we can get to this. There we are. So tell you what, let me just show you the tweet in full. So then you'll get an idea. Yeah, libertarian ASMR. It's all about the free market economy and awakening with small government. There you go. That's your libertarian ASMR. Enjoy. So yeah, this is the tweet that they tweeted out. So hopefully you'll be able to see it a bit better. So of course, these guys are anti-vax. So do the government really think I'm going to sell my soul and integrity to risk the vaccine for a nightclub pass? The vaccine has been proven to be overwhelmingly safe. At this point, the jury's in. The vaccines are safe. I don't think you can spin it any other way. There's no evidence to suggest that they're not. Oh, Congress, we're currently pushing for a progressive alliance too, but our Greens are in a circular firing squad, and our Libs are polling in a false majority territory. I understand your pain. Take it from someone who, again, would like to see a progressive alliance too in this country, but again, it's definitely infighting, and there are very big personalities from all sides of the parties currently in the UK who are, shall we say, very much against. And even if they did join together in a progressive alliance, how long that alliance might last might be a bit questionable, at least. But yeah, maybe one day we'll have to talk about that on a good morning walk, when we can actually get out in the field and we're not blocked by cows, because that's what ended up happening today. So as you can see, what we're going to get into, unfortunately, these guys, just from that tweet alone, suggest to me that they are very, very anti-vax. Again, like I say, imagine for a second a libertarian state in this coronavirus mess nonsense. Not only would there have been no lockdowns, there would have been no furlough scheme, there would have been no mask mandate. And when the vaccine came out, not only would have this libertarian government been very anti-distribution of the vaccine, because again, they don't believe that the government should be responsible for that type of thing. It would have turned out that they would have probably made people themselves, the people of the UK, again, if they had been in charge, or should we say, because it's the Scottish Libertarian Party, the people of Scotland actually pay for the vaccine, which could have potentially cost quite a lot. And if you've seen just the number of deaths from the coronavirus in places like Brazil and the states in America, which have basically pursued this exact same policy, the deaths are through the roof. Like, they're just off the scale. And don't get me wrong, in the UK, we have had a lot of deaths needlessly from the terrible policy decisions and the bad decisions that our government has chosen. But America under Trump and Brazil, led by Bolsonaro, have had it far, far worse. Far, far worse. So let's get back to our Libertarian Party. So, as I said, we are about on this channel talking about policy, not personality. So we're going to ignore that for a second. So imagine that I haven't just basically just poisoned the well, because I'll admit I pretty much just have poisoned the well against these guys. So let's refresh ourselves. Let's imagine this isn't what I've just been talking about for the past 17 minutes. Let's take a fresh look at these these guys. So let's take a look at there we are. Should we go for the manifesto? Should we go for policies? Oh, I can't. Let's think. I think it might be this. Oh, all right. They want a Dropbox. No way. Oh, I don't want to create a Dropbox. Oh no, here we are. This is their policy. Can you see it properly? Oh, Ibrahim, say it right. Ibrahim Shembri. I think that's again. I hope I'm saying it right. 2 coffees from a Green/Social Democrat supporter. Thank you very much for the support there, my friend. Thank you very much. So these are currently their policies. This is their manifesto they've got here. So they're going to put forward a bit of lockdown the economy, taxation, regulation, education, all one page, because I can guess how this is going to go. Civil liberties, free speech, law and order, health, unity, upholding democracy, local government, environment. Oh, that'll be good. 5 reasons to vote libertarian. So we're going to, of course, this, I believe, must be the party leader. So Tam Laird. So I'm just thinking, can you see this? Let's get, there it is. That's what I'm looking for. Hidden by that. Is that? Can you see this on the screen, or do you want it bigger? Do you want it like that, or do you want it like that? I mean, you can't see me today, so we might as well have it like that. But I think we'll have it like that. But I think before we jump into that, there is another thing that they had. So that's their manifesto, and we'll go over that in a bit. But there was another one I wanted to go through. So I think this sort of sums them up. I'd say maybe a bit more. So don't worry, we will be going through this in a bit. But I think this is maybe a bit more representative of what they are. So don't worry, we'll come back to their manifesto. Here we are. So this is a bit of their policies, and this is where they go over some stuff that's not in their manifesto. And like I say, it's worth going over both of these things. So here we are, the introduction. So what are the Scottish Libertarians? So the Scottish Libertarians is the party of freedom. Never before in the course of human history has such a vast scope of people had so much choice. That is what freedom is. It is each human being's innate right to choose the life that they want to live, from the clothes that they choose to wear, to the food that they eat, to the jobs that they choose. We are also free as a people, that freedom has never been before in such peril of being lost. Oh no, you've had to go into lockdown from a deadly virus. How shocking. Yeah, you are right. You are right, Canicus. You are right. Milton Friedman was the guy who pulled libertarianism from being very much a left-wing ideology right over to the right. And yeah, maybe one day we should do a deep dive into him and what libertarianism actually used to be about, because honestly, looking at like the libertarians of like the past versus now, they were far more left-wing than they are now. But we're about to find out. So freedom is about how people choose to act, and with actions there are consequences. Again, interesting to what they mean by consequences. Some consequences are good, some are bad. Really? Did you know that some consequences are good and some are bad? Right? The enemies of freedom fear the consequences of what they see as the bad choices and the actions of others. Well, yes, some consequences are bad and some will have bad actions. And some, if someone were to break into your house and take you hostage, that is technically a choice that hostage taker is making. And he is technically denying you freedom. Might that be a bit bad? Oh. So when a people are no longer held accountable for their actions, when their virtues go untoward and their vices are left unpunished, society becomes corrupt. In desperation, people turn to their corrupt government for a salvation that can provide. Instead, it brings force to control the choices of the people, and freedom is lost. First of all, I would definitely argue that people in this society that we live in today are definitely being held accountable for their actions. And again, why would a people, if you've described like that, turn to a government if they already know that the government is corrupt? Would that not lead to a revolution, not people turning to the government? So we are. The Scottish libertarians are a party of vision. Well, they've certainly got some vision, I'll tell you that. We see the imbalance between freedoms and responsibility. Okay. And we see how people accept the loss of freedom in the name of government, providing them safety and security against the threats, both real and imagined. Ooh, ooh. That's a very conspiratorial talk, that. When a people relinquish their responsibility for their actions and expect others to bear the consequences, they also relinquish their freedom. They have become like children, ill-equipped for the demands of freedom, and must rely on the state to care for them. Oof. You can tell where that's going to go. I wonder what their welfare policy is going to be like. Our vision is to move society away from the abyss. Our vision is to give people greater choice and allow them the honor of taking greater responsibility in their lives. We recognize that this, quote, yes, you can approach will take time to cultivate after decades of government control and the expectations of entitlement that is fostered in the public. So every policy decision will be guided by three simple maxims. And what actions will maximize freedom, what actions will decrease the power of government over the lives of the people, and what actions are practical given the current situation. Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Oh, so this is their bit on policy over race, religion, gender, and class. This is going to be very interesting. This could get very interesting very quickly. There are no groups. Okay. There are no groups. No, there are always going to be groups of people. Even if you manage to get into this libertarian wonderland that these guys create, there will always be groups. And people will always identify with groups. That is how human history has gone and operated for years. We are very, very tribalistic by nature. We are very, very tribalistic animals. You know, you've only got to look at the current mess that the current Labour Party is going to, and the very interesting time that the Labour Party conference is going to be in. And yes, by the way, I do intend to, if it's possible, live stream, if I can, the entire Labour Party conference. I will let you know, but that could be like an all-day stream. That so, you know, buckle in, grab some snacks, and get ready, because it is going to be a very, very interesting conference. So anyway, like I say, there are always groups. Doesn't matter. They continue with, there are only people, and people come individually. Every individual always identifies and makes group leanings. Like, you could ask a libertarian, where do they stand? Are they on the left or are they on the right? The second they make a conscious choice, even if they say, oh, I'm not on either, I'm in the middle, I'm a centrist, then they are immediately identifying with a group. So there are peoples whose actions are mostly good and lead to good outcomes for themselves and others. There are some people whose actions are bad and lead to painful outcomes for themselves and others. Yes, I'm glad you seem to understand that. And these actions exist in people regardless of their genetic assigned or adopted group identification. The only legitimate groups are based on merit, either positive or negative. Nothing else exists. So just from that statement alone, there's going to be no protections for gay people or any people from of race protections or anything like that, apparently. All that's apparently just done away with. And remember, we had to pass these protections because we have seen in the past that people do discriminate on race, religion, gender, and class. We have seen that. That is why we had to bring these in. So immediately I am like, well, so much for protections of these. Yeah, oh my. Oh my. Oh, Haggard Shanks, welcome. You coming in late. Like I say, unfortunately, nature has conspired against me for those coming in late. So we are going through the Scottish Libertarians policy offerings. Like I say, you can blame the herd of cows that blocked me off today from going on my morning walk. But yeah, just from that statement alone, that's incredibly worrying, because if someone's just said there, yeah, Pretty Bird just said it. Yeah, God help you if you're disabled under these guys. Yeah. There's going to be absolutely zero compassion from these guys. And yes, someone's beat me to it there again. Yeah. Wow. Okay, let's continue. I did tell you this was going to get, it is going to get worse, and it's going to get even worse. So, for this reason, the Scottish Libertarians promote freedom of opportunity. If you can, you may. If you can, you may. So, continuing with that disabled theme, what if you are disabled? And bear in mind, I know someone who is disabled, and he can only work part-time, and he relies on government support. What if the company were to just sack him for that? There's no protections for him against that, and I'm pretty sure these libertarian guys are not going to be in favor of workers' rights. Yeah, get good point there. Yeah, and if you can't, it sucks to be you. True. That's what it should be in brackets. Where were we? Yep. So if you can, you may. We reject any attempts at achieving an equality of outcome with the imposition of quotas and special privileges for groups based on race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or class. Again, I wonder if disabled people come in under these things as well, because you are talking about stripping out so much protections for, again, people of color, gender, and obviously sexual orientation. In the UK, we're going to see definitely in the future a massive fight for trans rights, but we'll have to see. So in regards to religion, the Scottish Libertarians make no distinction between a religious belief and a philosophical belief. If a religion promotes behaviors that are inconsistent with the philosophy of individual liberty, then it is seen as a threat to liberty and will be challenged accordingly within the marketplace of ideas. Interesting there. Gotta get the Calvinist support in there, I suppose, somewhere. gotta get the Calvinist support on here somehow. So I'm guessing they would disagree then with a lot of the stuff about, of course, Jesus had a lot to say about, shall we say, wealth distribution, and how we should treat the poor. I'm sure that that's going to be challenged in the marketplace of ideas. But yeah, wow, the marketplace of ideas. Yeah. Yeah, very true, Paz. Yeah, in the marketplace of ideas, their stall is empty, and we're about to get onto some of their proper policy now, because they've just basically said that they're going to strip protections away from anyone regarding race, religion, gender, and class. So no protections for you. No mention, of course, of the right to help defend disabled people, because it definitely does seem that, given what they've said there, they would strip rights away for disabled people. So, yeah, interesting one there. Here we come to some proper meat: the welfare state. Oh my. Oh my. Are we prepared? Are we prepared for this? Prepare yourselves. So, the welfare state. The Scottish libertarians reject the premise of the welfare state, that the government has a moral duty to provide for the poor and elderly and service to the community, such as free healthcare, free museums, free education, free activity, and recreational centres. Okay, so no NHS, no council services, so no council bin collection services, no road sweeping services, no fly tipping collection services, no more football fields, no more recreational centres. What on earth? That's absolutely insane. Okay, yeah, it's luckily these guys are never going to get in. Yeah, and of course, no fire brigades either. Yeah, you are right there, Eddie. No roads, no fire brigade. Let's continue else on this. And again, providing for the poor or elderly. So no state pension and no benefits if you are unemployed. Okay. let's now bear in mind this is the Scottish libertarians. And I believe, again, I a lot of if I remember correctly, Scotland was a very big recipient of the European Development Grant, which is based on deprivation. And I believe at least 3 of those were in Scotland, if I'm correct. I mean, I'm sure someone will correct me wrong, but yeah, these are going to be quite insane. Again, I told you it would get worse. So anyway, where were we? So anyway, the problem with this. So again, this is the problem. The problem with this. Oh, sorry. The problem with this premise is that nothing is free. It is paid through taxation. which means taking money by the threat of force from several individuals to satisfy the needs or desires of other individuals. So, yep, they're on the taxation is theft train. And of course, how on earth do you even run a government if the government literally cannot tax stuff? I mean, just think of the sheer function that something like HMRC provides. HMRC provides exact taxation. It goes, this is how much you've earned, this is how much tax you paid us. Oh, you've overpaid tax, well, here's it back. And HMRC, by the way, employs roughly, shockingly, quite a few number of people to do this. Like I say, one of the biggest things, one of actually the best things we could do, the government could actually do to create jobs, is actually to increase the number of people who work in HMRC. Because someone who works in HMRC, basically, through doing their job, ends up paying their own wage. And is one of the very few government operations where if someone is employed, by doing their job, they end up paying their own wage. But yeah, so basically, no tax. So how's a government meant to function? How is education meant to function? You know, we're already in a housing crisis, which is caused by the free market. So how do you intend to solve the housing crisis in Scotland without without the government getting involved to build social housing? This is why libertarians would never ever work in reality. They're just devoid from it. Anyway, we'll continue. So the welfare state seems like a good thing, and many people have reaped the benefit of it over the decades. But overall, it has led to an increase in poverty, in a decline in educational standards, and decline in the overall quality of healthcare. Citation needed. Citation needed. Now, let's address these things. In poverty, I'm presuming they obviously refer to, of course, the rise in in food poverty. Absolutely, that is down to the fact that the Tory government has literally not been giving enough people to be able to survive. This is why we're going to see a massive U-turn. This is why people like Steve Barker, of all people, who have consistently voted for welfare cuts, has already suddenly turned around and said, yeah, maybe taking away the boost that we've given to people under under the coronavirus might be a bad thing, because a lot of people are experiencing food poverty. And it shows that when this thing hits their own counties and people start writing letters about, hey, look what's going on here, they get turned around and they actually get worried for their seat a bit. So anyway, more importantly, it has eroded the character of the people of Scotland, as they have become increasingly dependent on the state and less self-sufficient. I don't think, look, a lot of people, even I know, that are on furlough or even lost their jobs through this, we're not dependent on the state. It is what we call a safety net. It is there so that we do not fall into absolute deprivation. This is just goes to show you the absolute level of care and these people have, because again, I've been to Edinburgh, and Edinburgh does have a homeless problem, just like any major city currently in the UK does. How are you going to help those people? Oh, they're not. Basically, that is their answer. And anyone else who ends up homeless, who might lose their job. And again, there are any number of reasons that people can become homeless. You know, they just might end up losing their job. They might go through a difficult time. It might be for health reasons. They might have abuse problems. You know, any number of reasons people can end up becoming homeless. It's not just a drug abuse problem, as it is often made out to be. There is absolutely no compassion at all. 0% compassion. And again, like I say, please cite me the source where it shows that the welfare state has been a decline in educational standards and the quality of healthcare, considering you want to get rid of the NHS. So the Scottish libertarians recognise that the welfare state has been established as such for over 60 years, and its flawed premise is deeply rooted in both the public consciousness and public institutions. Therefore, it is not something that can be changed immediately without causing considerable harm. At least they recognise that. But even then, if they were to say, we are going to roll back the welfare state to a point where it doesn't exist, you are still going to form harm. Even by doing that, you are going to form harm. And you said earlier on that one of your 3 promises was to make sure that it didn't cause harm, I believe. By rolling back the welfare state, you are causing harm. In addition, we also recognize that people want to live in a society where there exists a social safety net, free basic education, and other government services. Well, how long is that going to actually last when you think that taxation is theft? How are you going to get people to pay taxes to support these things, even though you are admitting right here that people want these things, but you're saying that society shouldn't have these things? That is just logically inconsistent. This entire welfare statement cost is just entirely inconsistent with their entire ideology. It just does not make sense at all. So this says, as long as there is a democracy, people will vote for politicians promising such things. We accept that there is an inescapable future of modern politics. Therefore, we advocate for a gradual movement away from forced participation in monopolized social programs by encouraging access to choices made available through privately funded alternatives. What are these alternatives? I'd really like to know what these alternatives are, because you're basically saying that there should be privatized healthcare. Well, there is private healthcare in the UK. If you do not want to use the NHS, you can go Bupa. That's it. That's a private healthcare provider. If you want to go to a Bupa clinic, you can. You are very free much to do so. There is nothing stopping you from not using the NHS. But, and again, privately funded alternatives. What do you mean by that? We also promote the participation of charities to perform more of the social roles and provide funding for those who truly are needy. So essentially, this is exactly what Jacob Rees-Mogg has said, that charity is a fantastic outpouring of Christian outlook. So as I said at the beginning, these guys claim to be probably ultimately on the left. No, libertarians, and especially these guys, are literally marching in lockstep with people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who is a hardcore free market fundamentalist. Like, this entire welfare state policy they've got here just does not make sense. You're stating that you don't want it because it's taxation. It's taxation. Tax equals taxation is theft. You're then saying that, again, without any evidence, that this has led to an increase in poverty, educational standards, and a decline in healthcare. Again, citation needed, because I don't know of any situation where that has actually happened. With the poverty, you might have a point with universal credit, but then I would argue that it has been because we have been living under a Tory government who has advocated constantly for cutting back on these things. You want charities to be able to step in and perform these roles. Even with food banks, it is still leading to poverty, and we should not have to rely on charity for this. This should be a function of the government, because there will be never enough charity in the world, or just in the UK in general, to provide for these roles that they are talking about. So we look forward to the day when free markets and charities fill the roles currently occupied by state and regulated by force. That entire welfare policy is entirely inconsistent. It does not make sense. They are making claims that they cannot back up with evidence. It is just logically inconsistent and would cause huge harm. Huge harm. So, education. Ooh. let's wow. Look how long they were talking about the welfare state, and look how big education is. That's like 1.5 paragraphs versus the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs they had on the welfare state. Education, quite a substantial policy that any government or prospective government should actually be very, very interested in. So remember, guys, taxation equals theft. So how on earth then do we fund schools, and what kind of crazy mess would the education system become under a libertarian government? Let's find out. So, education, like any other service. Okay, so we are definitely differing on that, certainly straight away. I would never ever define education as a service. I would say that education is a right, and I am heavy on that education is indeed a right to everyone, not just from the ages of 0 to 18, I think it is, government age, because obviously college is, again, state funded. Then you go to university, which you then have to pay for. So again, I'm very much a believer that education is a right, and should be a universal right. But anyway, massively disagree that education should be a service, and it is best provided by the free market. So again, services, according to them, are best provided by the free market, where there always is a profit motive. That is the biggest problem with many of these corporations that you're going to try and get to fill these services. There will always be a profit motive, and that will always be what drives these companies. That is what unfortunately leads to a lot of the bad outcomes from these. We have seen, for example, in just very recently during the coronavirus and the acquisition of the PPE scandals that we are constantly seeing being rolled out. They were all very badly, poorly underfunded, and yet, again, why were they so bad? Because there was a profit motive. These people went out and bought very poor, low-grade PPE, which turned out not to work and not be as effective, and supplied it to the NHS, which basically meant that the government gave them money. They then scrimped on it as closely as possible. And again, we're now seeing that some of these people who engage in PPE contracts buy like huge new mansions or huge new cars and boats with their now ill-gotten gains. Again, the private sector is not perfect. Can it do some good things? Yes, just like the private sector. The public sector, again, it's not perfect. Can it do a lot of good things? Yes, it can. Are there examples you can point to where the public sector has gone wrong? Yes, you can. You could also do it the exact same for the private sector as well. So anyway, so it is best provided by the free market for achieving greater quality and efficiency with more diversity of choice. Schools should be managed locally to achieve greater accountability and parental involvement. Schools are managed locally. Is he aware of this? The academy trusts that have been set up, they're all managed locally, overseen them by the council. Does this guy understand how school works? Oh, Tuesday Cantwell, good morning to you. Oh, you've slept in? Well, I technically didn't sleep in. Like I say, the nature conspired against me today. But yes, while we are here having a wee break, please do hit that like and share button. It does help out the channel a lot. And also down below, there are links down below to my Patreon page and Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you to everyone who does support the channel that way. So, on with more of this crazy nonsense, because, again, you are literally talking about managed locally is what schools are. Are they not aware of that? So they recognizing that the education of children is inexorably linked to moral values. We would return authority to parents to determine the education of their children without interference from the government. In particular, parents should have control of and responsibility of all funds expected of their child's education. We reject the government's use of education as a means of social engineering through the imposition of quotas, curriculum, special privileges of certain groups, and the use of academic industrial complex to keep unemployment figures low. What? Oh, okay. That's a new term I've never heard before. The academic industrial complex. What on earth? What on earth is this? And bear in mind, if this is just the Scottish Libertarian Manifesto, on Wednesday I'm going to have a right time looking through the English Manifesto, Libertarian one, because I hadn't realised how bad this actually was, and I've got the English one to look forward to on Wednesday. So look forward to that. But anyway, oh my word. So essentially, according to this, parents are going to have to pay all their funds from education. So not just primary and secondary school, but college as well. What if you can't afford this? Like literally, what if you literally cannot afford to send your child to school? Like, you are creating an incredible cycle of poverty here. You are creating such a downward spiral. This is absolutely insane. And again, couple this with what they've said about their welfare policy, and this is just insane. This is crackpot nonsense. Why on earth would you start a party like this? You know what? I'm going to poke the bear. I'm going to poke the bear. So what I want you to do in a minute, live. Let me just get the link. Shareable link. To Twitter. Let's find them. What were they now? Here they are. Here they are on Twitter. Here they are. I'm just going to tweet at them. There we are. So I want you to all take to Twitter in a minute. Because I'm going to tweet this directly at the Scottish Libertarian Party, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. Get the hashtag in as well. So here we are. So I'm about to tweet my my thing. Here we are, tweeting it out. There we go. It's out there. So if you have a Twitter account and you do follow me on Twitter, please do go head over to Twitter and hit that like and retweet. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I should give out my it's not Bowler Hat Man. It's this. Where is it? That's my Twitter handle. So I've just put my Twitter handle out. I should get a Bowler Hat Man one sorted out eventually. I'll get around to it eventually. Like I say, I'm not the biggest Twitterer, shall we say? But yes, go there, head over there, and yeah, like and retweet. Let's see what nonsense happens here. Yes, that is my actual first name. Shock horror. Shock horror. But yeah. Oh, excellent. Good. I can see some of the likes and retweets coming in now. Excellent. Now we'll just wait and see what happens. We'll wait and see what happens. But yeah, so let's do a quick review of what we've gone over before we continue. For those who are just joining us, welcome to the Good Morning Walk indoors today. Like I said, as I said before, nature has conspired against us and forced us indoors today. So here's the overall goal. Their policy on race, religion, gender, and class would essentially mean stripping away the rights and protections for these groups of individuals that we have known and we have seen in the past have been damaged and affected by not being protected. They also, very interestingly, do not mention disabled people, which I would argue would go into that. That, again, very, very interesting how they don't mention that. The next part, the welfare policy or the welfare state is a complete mess. They say that they don't want a welfare state, that it somehow has increased poverty. And again, I would argue while it has, there are different reasons because of that. They say that it has damaged education. Again, I would say, again, please provide me your evidence how it has damaged education and damaged healthcare. Again, please provide me evidence for how this has damaged overall healthcare. Again, they've said they want to get rid of protections for unemployed, no more state pension. They're basically saying taxation is theft. They then, though, go on to say that this has been ingrained within the people and that rolling this back immediately would cause considerable harm. I would agree that yes, rolling it back would cause incredible harm. Not only just immediately, but even if you started bit by bit rolling it back, it would absolutely cause harm to hundreds of thousands of people. They then say that, well, if people are voting for this, yeah, sure they can, but then again, if they've quote achieved, libertarian society, these things should all be provided for by private providers and charities. Again, very in lockstep there with Jacob Rees-Mogg, who has openly said that charity is an expression of the Christian values of the UK and is a fantastic thing to do. Shocking, but there you go. And then education. They've basically said that this is some sort of industrial action on this part, which again doesn't make sense. And that education should be managed locally, which it is. Education is overseen by your local authority. So win, I suspect. I'm sure they'll disagree somehow on that. They then went on to say that parents should be responsible for paying 100% of all educational needs. And that is ridiculous because, as we said earlier, what if you're poor and you literally cannot afford to send your child to school? Then what? They also disagree with having a national curriculum, which would essentially mean children could learn whatever. Again, I thought their welfare policy was a mess. It didn't make sense. Their education policy is just as worse, if not worse. Yeah, that's truly bizarre. Their education policy just does not make sense. But there you go. Of course, the biggest one, their biggest section, of course, would be about property and ownership and taxation. Right, here we go. So, the Scottish libertarians recognise that ownership of property is a requirement for human existence and therefore a right. Okay. Every person has a right to their justly earned or created property to use, sell, rent, lease, or dispose of as they choose. So wait. And they go on to say that, I'll just finish this off, the ramifications of this simple idea are far-reaching. What if I wanted to demolish my house with dynamite? Yeah, what if I wanted to literally pack my house full of explosives and then just blow it up? After all, I'm getting rid of my property in a way that I see fit. I'm disposing of it in a way that I choose. What if you live in like a series of houses, like or what they call now, the terrace houses. What if you live in terrace houses and you decide to, I'm just going to dispose of my house this way, and you live in like the center one? I mean, I'm not wrong, right? That is literally what they are advocating for. And yeah, you can dump your rubbish wherever you want. This is absolute nonsense, but I'm sure it's only going to get way worse. I'm sure this is only going to get way worse. Oh my. So, traditionally, in the United Kingdom, since 1066, all lands belong to the monarch and is passed from one monarch to the next, and next as inherited property. They do know that there were kings before 1066, right? What about all the Anglo-Saxons? What about Alfred the Great? What about the Danelaw? What about the Kingdom of Wessex, the Kingdom of Mercia, the Kingdom of East Anglia, the Kingdom of Northumbria? They all had their own kings who did this. Okay, but well, okay. With the advent of parliamentary democracy in Britain, the government then assumed ownership of the land in name of the monarch. What is commonly seen as property ownership in the United Kingdom is, in fact, property use. The actual owner remains the government. Yes, because you pay property taxes. Who would have guessed? And again, property taxes should go to fund things like infrastructure. So having roads, having new railways, providing, maybe council tax services where they provide things like, rubbish collection, I'm sure, firefighters, police. These are tend to what these taxes go towards. So there are reasons why these taxes are in place. And yeah, how haven't they played Crusader Kings? Aren't they aware? Aren't they aware of this? But anyway, where were we? So the actual owner is the government. So with this in mind, we can see how the government justifies telling someone what they can or cannot build on the property that they purchased. Yes, because there are rules and regulations around that. And of course, if you decide to build an extra 4 stories on your house, that might cause a bit more problems for other people. So, Paz News there. Thank you very much for that. Don't worry, provided that nature doesn't intervene again, we will definitely get you some ponies next week. Yeah. Good point. What if you did want to store uranium on your property? Again. Again, you're right, yeah. So, where were we? Properties, yes. So, so they cannot build the property on purchased. Also, council tax being attached to a property is a form of paid rent to the government for use of that property, even if it is, quote, owned. The seas are the seas are owned too. This is why oil companies must pay the government for access to the North Sea oil fields, even though the companies discovered the oil, built the rigs, employed the workers, and essentially tilled the aquatic soil. No, actually, the North Sea oil expansion, again, if you want to look into it, was funded by the government. The oil companies do take subsidies from the government. Shocking as it is, but there you have it. So just because they are a company, you know, they do not have automatic rights to just to go out there and do that, even if they do discover, build the rigs, employ the workers until the aquatic soil. You know, companies do have standards as well. So, and the skies are no exception. Here we are. Access to the airwaves are paid in the form of television licenses by the consumer or sold in auction to mobile phone networks that then pay tax on that use. Yes, because the government invested in building that original network. So it is what built the television stations. It was what built the television broadcast stuff. You know, if you are familiar with Yorkshire, the big tower that we have in Yorkshire, Emily Moor, a big part of the transmission network, again built by the government, now privately run by another firm called Arqiva that runs it on behalf of the government. Oh. Anyway, I'm paying tax on that use. Even the value-added tax is a tax on property. Each time human labor improves a piece of property, like a manufactured product, a tax is added at each stage. Again, we can see where this is going. Obviously, we've already seen before, taxation equals theft. So the Scottish libertarians do not reject the idea that the government may own property, but we do reject the underlying premise that the government has an automatic claim in all property. I'm sorry, but they do. They are the government. They own the property. Not a lot you can do about that, unfortunately. Therefore, the government does not have the right to levy taxes on property. Here we are. That's the right. They do not like property taxes, essentially, because obviously taxation equals theft. This includes council tax, VAT, sin taxes, taxation on free trade of goods and services, income tax, tax on businesses, nor do they have the right to fix prices. How is your libertarian government meant to operate? How is the government then meant to operate when it has no money coming in? If you are not taxing anything, how is there meant to be a government? Someone said it earlier. It's neo-feudalism. Because you've got to have a government, because a government decides who owns what's land. For example, if there is a parcel of land and I go to someone, I say I want to buy that land, then they have to go through the government channels to say I am selling this amount of land, this is who the ownership is going to, they own that land, they are the person who will pay taxes on that land. Under a libertarian system, obviously no government, who is then the one who decides overall ownership of that land? Can I just come along and just say I own that land? Here's this document I have, even though the other person may also have a document that says they own that land. This is madness. This is just sheer madness. Again, like I said before, complete crackpot policies. So, regarding corporate taxes, the Scottish libertarians recognise that it is not possible to tax a company. It is possible to tax a company. It's very possible to tax a company. It's very easy. HMRC has been doing this for years. The oh my word. Oh my word. Right, if ever a libertarian government actually came to power, it would absolutely fall to pieces within a month or two. It would not last a year. It would literally devolve into complete anarchy. It would become a failed state faster than you can click your heels. So let's figure out why it's not possible to tax a company. The business simply figures that the tax into its operating costs, which it meets by increasing the cost of goods and services or by employing fewer people. Therefore, the tax levied on a business is in fact a hidden tax on the people. Therefore, we advocate the abolishment of all taxes on business. Yes, just zero taxes on all businesses. Yeah, that's going to work out incredibly well. Businesses, yeah, at the end of the day, would love that initially, but at the end of the day, there's going to be no roads for them to drive on, or no infrastructure for them to get their products to markets. This is crazy. This is insane. I'm sorry, but these guys are complete crackpots. They really are. So the Scottish libertarians recognise the need for a government. Oh, okay. That's very unusual. You very often don't hear libertarians admit a need for a government. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting admission. So they recognize the need for a government and the need to fund that government. Okay, so how are you going to fund this government without taxes? Which pretty much has been the most successful model of funding this. Although taxation is a violation of property rights, it is, however, the primary means of funding a government. So until an alternative method is found, we advocate the abolition of all taxes with the exemption of a flat tax based on a fixed percentage of income minus a maximum tax allowance. Ideally, this will be paid to local government with a percentage forwarded to the central government to pay for expenses. The annual budget of both local and central government will be fixed at a percentage of GDP, thus limiting government spending. What? What on earth have I just read there? What on earth have I just read there? Like, I get the idea that they really want to quote the local government, and then it's flipped up to like the central government. But every single most successful society on earth operates with a very strong central government. Now, of course, the degrees to that centralization do change. The UK is one of the most centralized governments in the world. Whereas, again, you go to Europe and you look, again, in places like Germany, where, again, they have a very strong central government, but they also have the local governments as well. Same for in France, where they have, again, more say over that. Because what the government does, it goes, okay, here's your money for this year, spend it how you see fit. That is how it works. Otherwise, again, if these flat taxes are going primarily to your local government, you are also going to create areas where some towns, cities, and villages virtually get nothing. So these deprived areas that are already poor and suffering from the effects of poverty, where money needs to be pumped in to that area, how on earth are these people going to pay tax when there is, again, no welfare, no protection for rights, there's no NHS, you're expecting them to pay for their own healthcare and their own child education. You are going to literally create areas in this country, apart from the cities, and it's questionable to how much some of these cities will fare, of course, but you are going to create areas in this country that are literally become Wild West wastelands, because certain areas and towns are literally not going to be able to fund themselves because they do not have the population, or they do not have sufficient population in work to be able to pay that tax. And you are right there, Shane. Flat taxes are just a tax on the poor. We've seen how flat taxes would consistently hurt the poor while benefiting the rich. Again, thank you very much, Carswell. The government should be purely funded as a charity, since it would so well. They can't even stay true to their principles in the paper. Yeah, they can't. They're all over the map. This is why I've said it's complete crackpot nonsense. And bear in mind, this is just the Scottish libertarians. On Wednesday, we're going to go over the English Libertarian Party and their manifesto. I am slightly dreading that. And FSM is right. It would lead to riot and pillaging. It would lead to riot and pillaging. And it would lead to areas of this country that are, if you think they are deprived now under this system that they are proposing, it would be 1,000 times worse. A 1,000 times worse. Where are we? Here we are. So another hidden tax, of course, is inflation. Right? Okay. So apparently, inflation is also a tax as well. Okay. When government prints money to pay for its debts and expenditure, the increase in the money supply causes inflation that devalues the currency, thus rendering property worthless. To combat this, the Scottish libertarians would advocate a monetary system based on gold. Oh no. Oh no. Sorry, based on gold, silver, or both, and denounce the fiat money system and the central banking system that creates inflation. Oh no. Oh no, they want to get rid of the central bank as well. Okay. Here's a fun fact. Here's a question for you. Who determines that a pound is a pound? Who determines that? Oh, thank you very much, Kaylee Anderson. So there's no central government. That would mean no police. Can we just go and punch the rich and take their stuff? Potentially, yes. Potentially, yes, we can. Yeah. Yeah. Just run the country on Dogecoin and be done with it. True. Why not just base our entire currency on just complete speculatory nonsense? And like I say, coming back to my question, who determines that a pound is worth £1? How is that figured out? That is done by a central bank. And it has been shown and proven throughout history that having a central bank is a necessary force for good in a country and an economy. Without a central bank, you cannot determine what the price of £1 is. Because someone could come along and say, that £1 I think is worth £10 because I have a lump of gold that says otherwise. Exactly. We see yeah. Oh, yeah. Shade says, oh, £1 of silver. Exactly. But what if £1 of gold I say is worth more than your £1 of silver? Who is the final the final arbiter to say what is worth what we are saying it is worth? So yeah, that's yet another crackpot policy. And yeah, Simon, you see, yeah, £1 is worth what the international market decides what it's worth. Potentially that is true. You could have a base it on like an international market, but then what about your internal market? Because your internal market could say that £1 worth on the international market is worth 5 in the internal market. Who decides what on this? Yeah, that's true. The fiscal Thunderdome. That's what we need. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. That's a perfect way to decide fiscal policy. Perfect way to decide the fiscal policy. Oh. So it is believed that by placing tighter restrictions on taxation and spending, that government will be forced more prudently and thrifty when it comes to spending other people's money. Well, there you go. Anyway, I'm going to leave you for just 5 minutes because I just have to take a break for a second. So I'm going to leave you for a couple of minutes, and I will be back in a second. Right, and I'm back. So unbelievably about this, so far, not a single one of these policies has made a single bit of sense. It has been internally inconsistent. Policies that they say are a decision on basing the least cause of harm, if implemented, would cause untold levels of harm in this country. It is sheer nonsense what we are seeing here today. But this is an actual political party that again has run in the UK. Well, in Scotland, but you get the idea. But anyway, let's find out what they've got on Scottish independence and, of course, the EU. So Scottish independence, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. Scottish libertarians recognise that many of the policies we would like to see for Scotland are impossible in the current political situation. Not only just impossible in the current political situation, any political situation you could possibly imagine, these policies would be impossible. And therefore, we support the idea of an independent Scottish nation state as a means for ensuring greater liberty for the Scottish people. Our support for independence should not be considered as support for the current or future policies of the Scottish National Party, nor do we support Scottish membership to the European Union, as this would simply be trading one foreign master for another. And by the way, I think I've talked about this before, but should Scotland ever go independent and actually seek to rejoin the European Union, you would absolutely see a UKIP type organization come to prominence. Because even though Scotland, quote, voted overwhelmingly to join, to remain in the European Union, there was about 44% of people that voted to leave. You cannot ignore that percentage of population. That shows that any party that specifically took charge to with their primary destination of being, quote, getting Scotland out of the EU would absolutely be there and would absolutely show support. So this idea that Scotland would be a permanent member and be a non-trouble causing member would not be the safest one possible, because again, 44%. We know that EU parliamentary elections in the UK are very, very poorly attended, very poor turnout. Now that's not just in the case of England and Wales and Northern Ireland, but in Scotland as well. And remember, Nigel Farage and UKIP use these European elections as opportunities to build up UKIP, or I suppose what it would be called would be SIP, Scottish Independence Party. So there would absolutely be a SIP. And a lot of people who, again, want Scottish independence don't seem to take that into effect when it comes to talking about Scottish independence. But anyway, we'll continue. Since the independence referendum was defeated, the Scottish libertarians support more devolved powers from Westminster to the Scottish Parliament. We would support any future referendum on Scottish independence, permitted only on the condition that the bill proposed is consistent with our libertarian principles outlined in the Constitution, Part 3, and the vote was not directly associated with membership to the EU. So that's their policy on independence, the United Kingdom and the European Union. I thought they would be pro-independence, but apparently not. That's surprising. That's surprising. I'll say that now. So international affairs and commerce. Let's see what their international. Let's see what their international policy is. Let's see what their international policy is on this. Oh, you take it there's no immigration policy. Well, you might want to take a look what's coming up next after this. So, the Scottish libertarians recognise national defence and international diplomacy as an important function of the government. How on earth are you going to fund this national defence when you are literally slashing every single tax possibility there is? That's very, very significant. Very, very significant. So the Scottish libertarians see the nation state as the natural extension of the nation, which is an extension of the individual. Okay, again, remember at the start where they were talking about groups can't exist and they reject the idea of the groups. They are themselves admitting that there are groups just from that very statement. Yeah, that's it again. Yeah, crowdfund the military. Just crowdfund everything. So, as representatives of the individual comprising of the nation state, so you mean the group, the central government does not have any moral prerogative that the individuals themselves do not morally possess. Just as the individual does not have the moral right to initiate violence, so too does government not have the moral right to initiate war. Just as the individual may respond with force to defend their life, liberty, and property, so too the government may morally engage in armed conflict to defend the life, liberty, and property of the people that it represents. So essentially, a very interventionist policy, what they're proposing here. When international conflicts arise, we argue for diplomacy is the primary option for the resolution and reject the use of force. What if you have to step in and provide a use on one of these? What if you have to step in on this? So it's what you're going to have to step in on this. But there you go. We reject the use of force, either militant or economic. So basically no sanctions can be issued against the country either, which means as a means of achieving our international goals. Should diplomacy fail and the life, liberty, and property of the nation is at stake, then war becomes the only option remaining. We will be officially declaring through the passage of legislation. Okay. How long could that take? If someone is at war with you, do you think that they're going to wait for you to pass legislation? I don't think so. I don't really think so. Since the rights to life, liberty, and property are innate and inalienable, the Scottish libertarians reject the moral legitimacy of any nation or international body that denies these rights to protect the people and it claims to represent or even administer. So I think they're talking about NATO there potentially. Although the objective is to be friends with all nations, the Scottish libertarians reject the idea of international permanent partnerships with any and all nations, such as alliances may limit or determine the sovereign actions of the Scottish government as representative of the people. So basically, they want to leave NATO, essentially. So that could leave us open to some very, very interesting place from Russia. And it will be interesting to see how Scottish libertarians would actually react to situations that we have seen from Russia, such as like the Salisbury poisoning. How would you react to that? What would your response be to that? Yeah, it wasn't militarily, but again, if you're saying that also placing sanctions on these country is is also wrong, then how do you punish a foreign government for doing something like that? Anyway, so although the objective principle, yeah, so individuals may freely trade amongst themselves, regardless of international borders, and without the imposition of trade barriers, restrictions, import duty, or protective tariffs. Therefore, we advocate a government that facilitates trade agreements for free movement of goods, services, and capital with as many nation states as possible. So essentially, they are arguing for complete free market fundamentalism, and that apparently any other government, the way I've read this, any other government has to accept that that's how they're going to trade, and that you cannot infringe on, let's say, a Scottish business sending, I don't know, lumber to Canada. You do not have to pay any import duties or anything like that, because after all, no one's meant to be subject to those types of things. So that is just absolutely insane. Their trade policy there makes no sense. Not only that, why would another country just give you that full, complete trade agreement? That even in itself doesn't make sense. That you wonder why, by the way, there is no economic policy here. That is because there is no economic policy. The economic policy is just to go, run free, run wild, my children, and hang the consequences. That is incredibly deadly within itself. Yep, that's true as well. So anyone can create Scottish whiskey and import it to Scotland. That is exactly what they are saying. So anyway, immigration. Let's see what they have to say on this. So, immigration. Part of the free movement of goods, services, and capital is the free movement of people. Rather shockingly, I agree with that. Because again, if you want free movement of goods and services and capital, then you have to accept free movement of people. It's shockingly these people are incredibly in favor of one of the founding principles of the EU. It's kind of shocking, but here they are. So the Scottish libertarians support easy immigration into Scotland for people who want to be part of the Scottish nation. However, there's always a however. That could have basically just been it. This is where I worry it's going to get. However, we support reasonable controls to prevent the entry of foreign nationals who pose a credible threat to security, health, and property. Also, they've got such a fixation on property, libertarians. It's insane. Also, we reject government social engineering, such as situations where foreign nationals are settled in Scotland and supported through welfare or given special treatment in public institutions. If someone comes to this country with absolutely nothing, how do you... What happens? What... I don't understand what happens. It's insane. Yeah, you'd think, hearing what we just heard, are these guys anti-EU? And they are anti-EU, but they're not. This is generally insane. I can't believe someone would put out these policies and think these are a good idea. These are what's going to get us elected, guys. But there you go. So here we are. Crime, justice, and self-defense. Another important function of the government is to protect the rights of its citizens to life, liberty, and property against their violation by force, fraud, and the deliberate or neglective actions of others. So to do that is police and courts. I'm very interested how you're going to actually fund these police and courts, given the fact that you are against the type of taxation that you would need to fund these things. But again, we'll see. The primary means of achieving this is through the police and courts. But this does not preclude the rights and responsibility of the individuals to defend themselves as needed without fear of government reprisal for doing so. Okay. We support restitution of the victim to the fullest degree possible at the expense of the criminal or the neglected wrongdoer. We oppose the reduction of the rights of the criminally accused, such as the rights of due process, a speedy trial, legal counsel, trial by jury, and the legal presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Therefore, we also oppose the act of the inviolable declaration and the detention. The indefinite detention and detention without charge of a crime. So, again, I still don't know how you fund these police and courts without having taxes to do it. That literally does not make any bit of sense. What you've brought up here does not make any bit of sense at all. But anyway, we'll get on to the final part here. Privacy. Each individual has the right to be left alone and secure their personal information from both others, individual and government. Personal information cannot be sold, traded by any third party. Clear consent of the individual, nor accumulated by government agencies without a warrant. Any violations of individuals' express wishes to be left alone by any individual, company, government, or agency should be seen as a violation of their rights, therefore a criminal act. The only exception being individuals or entities seeking restitution for contractually agreed upon debt. Okay. Basically, you want extreme privacy, right? Okay. I would disagree that the government does have right to, especially government agencies do have the right to hold information. Because they absolutely do, because sometimes they will need that information to be able to provide accurate, tax information. That is the best way. If they've got accurate information and records on you, then they will need to pay tax on you. So, how long have we been going? Oh, wow, we've been going over 2 hours on this. So, yeah, wow. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the policy offering of the Scottish Libertarians. The manifesto does not seem to be any better. I'm just having a quick splash through it. Most of it is about not wanting further lockdowns, posing more regulation. We've already been through that. They're opposing masks in classrooms, future pension schemes. How nice. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much what we've covered already. There's nothing really here that we haven't covered in the manifesto. So yeah, that is essentially the Scottish Libertarian Party. What I can only describe as a party of crackpots and cranks with a completely uneven ideology that contradicts itself, policies that, as we've seen, literally contradict themselves within the next sentence. Admissions that they don't want governments, but they need a government, and that they don't want taxation because it's theft, but they recognize that they need taxation because there isn't, quote, yet a better way to fund the government. These people are complete crackpots and nonsense. And like I say, on Wednesday, we're going to be going over the manifesto of the English Libertarian Party. So look forward to that on Wednesday, because if you'd enjoyed this, you're going to enjoy the English Libertarian Party as well. Oh, wow. So, please do hit that like, share, and subscribe button before you go. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, and of course, there's the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you to everyone who does support the channel that way. And of course, hopefully next weekend, nature will not intervene, and we will be able to have a better good morning walk with us ahead. And with that said, as always, thank you for watching. Have an absolutely super smashing great weekend. If you can't be safe, be sensible. If you are here in the UK or around the world, please do keep on wearing your masks. Please do think about social distancing while you are out there. Like I say, the virus is indeed still out there, even though the government doesn't want to say it's out there. And of course, thank you, Catherine OG. Thank you very much. So, yeah, have a very good weekend, everyone. As always, it's been absolutely fantastic, and we will see you next Saturday morning, hopefully, when nature will not conspire against me. And look out for Wednesday as well at 7 p.m. UK time or GMT for more, shall we say, Fantasyland politics, but this time from the English libertarians. So, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Go out and enjoy yourselves. And as always, we'll see you all next time.